Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Internado. The Black Knight Nation podcast is brought to you by Higher Echelon. We thank Joe Ross and Higher Echelon for sponsoring our podcast, as always. And first off, let's plug some stuff on our website. We have Seth Mendelson's game story. And within Seth Mendelson's game story are all these press conference videos, crazy, like, who's up there? Bryson Daly, Leo Lowen, Jabari Moore, Jabril Williams, Coach Monken. I got to talk to Elo Madozi as a one-on-one, an exclusive Black Knight Nation interview that's up on our YouTube channel. Take a look at those. I just wrote a story on Jabari Moore. His big play in the end zone, not his first big play in the end zone as an Army football player. We'll get into that a little bit. But now I'm going to welcome in Seth Mendelson and Brendan in Jersey to talk about Army's 17-14 win over Holy Cross on Saturday at Michie Stadium. Guys, I'm going into this game. We thought, okay, you just beat Air Force. You just knocked Air Force from the ranks of the unbeaten. You got the first leg of the CIC in the bag, and we're going to see some momentum off that game. Maybe hopefully get some momentum from the offense and maybe come up with a little bit more. I can't think of the word. Just win more comfortably than they did. Against a decent Holy Cross team. I mean, we're not saying Holy Cross is a world beater. They're not. I mean, they're a good team. They're not a great team. They're an FCS team. They're a team that Army should beat by more than 3 points. And there's my opening statement. Seth, go ahead.
Okay, well, it was a good place to be yesterday. I enjoyed the game. I agree with you totally. I was expecting a high-scoring game. I was expecting our offense to really come out and really, put it together. Of course, we didn't see that. The defense played well. They didn't. They bent, but they didn't break, as I say in my article, and we've talked about. And that's the reason Army won the game. They won the game, as Coach Monken said, because they blocked that punt early on that gave them a 7-0 lead. And a couple of turnovers by Holy Cross it led to the second touchdown. Eventually the second touchdown in the first half, and then the field goal in the second half, and that's that. I was hoping for a lot more, and I think a lot of people like myself, maybe I'm put words in you guys' mouths, but probably you guys too. We're disappointed in the offense once again. And as we talked before, this is 4 games of 3 touchdowns, 3 offensive touchdowns in the last 4 games. And as Sal noted to us before we went on, 4 games and Army has had 1 or less touchdowns in a game. Out of 10 games.
That's offensive touchdowns. Offensive touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Correct. Offensive touchdowns. Thank you. So a little happy for the win. A win's a win. We're 4-5 now. Going to a big game against Coastal. And then, of course, the Navy game, and which everybody's looking forward to. But I expected more, and we can talk about why.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Monken was also. And you listen to Coach Monken's press conference. He was also disappointed in the offense too. Brendan, your first take on the game.
Yeah, so I'll definitely take the win, and I think I mean Seth's right. I mean, I think we all expected a little more out of Army's offense yesterday, but I can forgive this result somewhat just because I think it's natural for a team like Army, who's kind of been struggling this season. They're coming off a hugely emotional, physical, and historical win against Air Force. So I think it's natural for them to have a letdown. And then Holy Cross, clearly, I mean, Holy Cross put up a very kind of like classic Army type effort where they were, they were very competitive with Boston College earlier in the season, and they saw an opportunity to where maybe they could, collect an FBS scalp this season, and went out there and gave it pretty much all they had. But for 1 or 2 plays, this game might have gone their way. So I can forgive the result somewhat, and really like it. I mean, once Army beat Air Force, it's sort of like, all right, well, like, are they gonna beat Navy and finish the job on the CIC? So it's not like these games don't matter, but I think kind of like keeping your team healthy and keeping your team cohesive. I mean, I would like to see them work on more things in the playbook, especially that Drew Thatcher passing game that we were promised, which they did. I think there were a couple plays yesterday where I could point to and say, okay, like that's a Drew Thatcher, passing offense play right there. But I don't know. I mean, I kind of hope next week versus Coastal is just like a little more open wide, because I want Navy to have to worry about as many things in Army's playbook as possible. Right. But yeah, at the end of the day, like everybody's saying, a win is a win.
Yeah, a win is a win. But I mean, I tell you, in that fourth quarter, right, I almost thought there were more booth reviews than there were touchdowns in the game. I looked through the stats, and according to the stats, there were 4 booth reviews in the fourth quarter. I thought there was 5, maybe 6 booth reviews, and there were only 4 total touchdowns scored in the game. I mean, when it was a drag it out to the end type game, and for Army, I guess, to hang in there and get the W, right? I mean, converting that fourth down, and the funny thing is, on that 4th and short that sealed the game, where they could kneel to take a couple kneel downs, Coach Monken told us after the press conference that was the same play that they ran twice on the goal line on that possession where they failed to score a touchdown. They ran the same play twice on the goal line, didn't score on the goal line, but it worked, that time when they needed it the most, I guess, to seal the game up. And there you go. Special teams, obviously had a big day with the punt block. And Jabril Williams is a guy who always seems to be in the middle of a punt block for Army, right? Last year, he blocked a punt, I believe, against UConn. Mm-hmm. He recovered the block punt against Navy, and now he has a punt block that leads to a touchdown by freshman Elo Madozi. And so Jabril Williams is becoming like kind of a special teams ace for Army, so to speak, or a big play special teams guy. And that's what I thought Noah Short would be, but then Noah Short's taken the next step on offense, right? And been one of the Army's prime receivers. So I don't know. After the pump block, you figure, okay, things are going and moving in Army's direction. But the offense had that good drive with the Terrell Robinson touchdown, but not a hell of a lot after that, other than the big play to Casey Reynolds, where Casey Reynolds.
Go ahead. Go finish, man.
Well, Casey Reynolds, I mean, that play, 69 yards, right? Could have been a 70-yard touchdown. He's not really in that situation too often where he's running, in the open field looking to get to score. So, I mean, that's a play where probably they would have liked to get the 6 and not have to earn it on the goal line, which they didn't get it. And I don't want to get too far ahead with that goal line. The plays in the goal line, but it's something that we've talked about a lot. So go ahead, Seth.
I was going to say that, the penalties came into play both ways. They hurt Army on a couple of drives, especially that goal line stance there where they try to score after Casey's completion, but also helped Army with, they got the roughing the passer penalty that ended up resulted in the field goal in the fourth quarter that put that and end up being the difference in the game. So penalties definitely played a role. Monken mentioned penalties about the offense. There was no turnovers for Army. They didn't turn the ball over, but penalties hurt them. And, that's something that has to be looked at. And, I don't know if you want to talk about this now, but when you're on first and 1 on the 1 and you get called for a holding penalty, that says to me, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but that says to me the quarterback Daly should have been under center to push it in. When you're 5 yards back, it opens the door for holding penalties, much more likely to happen because you have more time for it to take place. So that's something they have to work on for the last 2 games. Brendan makes a comment about beating Navy. Everybody wants to beat Navy, but it'd be nice to finish 6-6. And you have to beat Coastal, and they're a good team.
The whole thing, right, with this under center stuff. And Brendan, please provide us some insight, because we could watch the TV screen in the press box if we wanted to on every play, but that's not how I watch a game. But just tell us, they went under center for a couple plays in this game. The first under center plays that weren't kneel downs all season, I believe. And so tell us what you saw there. And I mean, they're practicing under center plays now, apparently in practice. So
Yeah, I mean that was a shock. There's two under center plays in particular that I can remember. There might have been another one that I missed watching from home, but there was one that was a pass play out to the left to the short side of the field that was incomplete, and then there was another one that was like a classic Kel Walker type from the from those days, toss sweep that I think was I don't remember if it picked up a first down or what, but it was a nice gain. I think it might have converted a first down. I can't remember, but certainly surprising to see them break out that formation in what, game number 9 of the season?
Yeah,
game number 10 of the season. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have that for Air Force, you know. They wanted to just run straight, you know, delayed reads for Air Force. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hey, we've talked about this ad nauseum all year long about this gun offense, and when you get to the short yardage plays, why aren't you under center? Why isn't Jacoby Buchanan running the ball? I guess when you're in the shotgun, I came up with this theory yesterday. I guess I was driving home from the game. I guess they feel like they have a better chance from the shotgun of Bryson Daly scoring and Jacoby Buchanan leading Bryson Daly than they have Jacoby Buchanan running from 5 yards behind center. You know, I guess that's how I don't know. That's what analytics say. I don't know. But the fact that he doesn't really, you know, that's his bread and butter. He is among the top players in Academy history in rushing touchdowns. This guy, he knows he finds the end zone, yet you do not use him in these situations. Is kind of, you know, we're going into the 11th game of the season, and you know,
it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling.
Does it make sense, Brendan? Does it make sense? I don't know. To me, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, to be fair, like, I don't know. I think they've had decent success, like when they get down to the goal line. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it was up to me, you know, you'd be under center at the goal line. But I don't know. I mean, yeah. the whole, like, I mean, the whole reason why they always said they didn't run that many shotgun plays unless it was something they were really working on for a particular week is because it's not easy to just go from like under center snaps to shotgun snaps for the center quarterback exchange. So I assume it's the same rationale in reverse, but I don't know.
I think that's kind of hard. That's one of the easiest plays an offense can do. You know, the center giving the ball to the quarterback, you know, underneath. It should be easy. It should be seamless. And you know, we're being told over and over again that that Army doesn't work on it. Well, work on it. It seems to be needed. This is not the first time we're talking about this. The goal is to always, you know, to enhance your offense as the season goes along, and where you see things you may need to put into the playbook. So I don't. We all don't get it, but I don't get it. But having said that, they won the game, and that's the bottom line. When you look back 10 years from now, they beat.
We're not going to look back 10 years from now and look up this Holy Cross game, Seth. We're not. Okay. We're not going to care. We're not going to care, to be honest with you. I mean, you might, but everybody else in the world will not care. Army fans in the world will not care.
I probably will. Yeah.
They say it's a matter of investment. They're investing their practice time in the gun offense and the gun option plays, and they want to get those down. But I'm saying you've invested that time for, you know, 11 weeks now, or however the season's been, plus spring, plus preseason. And I don't know. I mean, we're going to get past this. We were bringing it up all the time, but it may come down. Look at last year's Army-Navy game, right? It came down to a goal line play by Navy. the CIC trophy could come down to Army with the ball at the 1 yard line. And do they go from shotgun or do they go from under center? You know, that could happen. The chances are okay with that. Let's get to some comments. John Griffin saying Isaiah Alston looked healthy in the pregame video Sal posted. Is he close to returning to action? Not sure on that. I've thought I heard they're going to try to get him back for Navy. We'll see if they may give him a go for Coastal, but I don't really see. I don't know. Do you take the chance and use Isaiah Alston against Coastal with the Commander-in-Chief's trophy on the line, and a couple weeks later against Navy? I'm not sure. That's going to be that's a Coach Monken question. I was happy at least they tried taking snap under center, says Ben Davis, and Kent checking in. Daly has to be able to throw better, especially in this offense. Yeah, I mean, Coach Monken said in his press conference, right, Seth, that the one play to Lingenfelter they probably would have had for a touchdown if everybody was in sync.
Right.
And, yeah, I think it's just a matter. My thing is, if you're investing your time in practice and all these, gun option plays, I'm guessing you're throwing the ball too in practice a little bit more than you were last year. So I'm guessing you are working on the plays. It's a matter of timing, and it's it's a feel too. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, we'll see what happens this week against Coastal if they have to throw the ball a little bit more because of the score.
And remember, you have 3 weeks off after Coastal before Navy. You have 3 weeks in between Coastal and Navy, and Thanksgiving's in there, so I'm sure the kids get to go home or something is done. But I'm not even sure. Is that true, Sal? You probably know that better than I do. Do they get to leave campus on the football?
Yeah, sometime. Yeah, they'll practice on a Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and they'll probably be given the Thanksgiving weekend off normally.
Okay, but still 2.5 weeks or thereabouts. You would hope that they would put some new things in. We always talk about it before the game. What are the two teams going to do to fool the other team? This is the big game. I just hope that they do something like that and create situations where, if it's 1st and 1, you can get underneath center, you can push yourself in and hopefully get in. And if you don't get it on the first try, I was watching the Chargers today. They tried twice. Were not successful. They end up not being successful, end up costing them. But at least they tried. They tried to push the quarterback in from the 2. He got to the 1. Second time he got to like the half-inch yard. I'm just surprised by it. I'm surprised they're not trying at this point.
It's time to put that to bed. But I will say we have a couple more comments I'll get to in a second. I will say in this game, and we'll put the offense to bed, and we'll get to talk about the defense. They had another good game. A little bit more pitch plays, right, guys? A little bit more getting Tyrell Robinson the ball a little bit more on the perimeter. He scored a 14-yard touchdown. It's good to see. He's a big part. He should be a big part of this offense. He's a weapon. He makes a difference. So hopefully they'll be able to find him the ball. I think they tried to hit him on a wheel route too. That didn't work out. But those wheel routes are going to be there if you're going to keep on running up the middle. If you keep on lulling people to sleep with those inside runs with the quarterback or Kanye Udo, send Tyrell Robinson on a wheel route. He's a capable receiver. So,
this is what we should be doing. This is what should be. All these different things you're talking about, we're all talking about. That's what makes an offense interesting. Doing different things, so nobody knows what you're going to do.
Hey, Steve Miller, thanks for joining us, Steve. I had a big smile when they went under center, ran a good counter. We were definitely missing easy passes in the gun, no doubt. And then Ben Davis confirmed, the missed pass to Lingenfelter would have been a short TD if we connected. Ben coming in hot here. The option looked good. Seems like same old. Some pitches are a little late. I think, is that by design, you think, Brendan, that they're like, it seems like Bryson Daly's almost taking it to the edge before he pitches it.
Yeah, I mean, and some of them went for a significant game too, where he was really pushing it as far as he could before pitching the ball. So that certainly seemed to be up to him and his read. I would say.
Big shout out. I want to give Bryson Daly, like as usual, the way he plays and how hard he plays, and the hit he took on that goal line play on the 4th and 1. That was a major level right there, and he bounced back up and didn't miss a snap on the next series. Dude's tough. He runs hard. I think he's a winning player. It's just you got to put him in the position where he can make those winning plays sometimes. And I think that sometimes, even Coach Monken talked about that against UMass. Sometimes they gotta just put the players in their best position to be successful. We talked about the defense. Second straight week, pretty good. They were going 7 quarters, I believe, without a score, allowing a score until UMass got that touchdown, I believe, in the third quarter. Pretty solid job by the defense again. Giving up a ton of yards, right? Army's outgained in this game. The time of possessions in UMass Holy Cross's favor. Sorry about that. The stats don't look. If you look at the stats, you think probably Holy Cross won this game, but it's the defense that comes up with some big plays. And Leo Lowen playing out of his mind in the first half. He was all over the place, and they gave him a little bit of a break toward the end of the first half, and they brought in, I think, Brett Jarena to play the inside backer. I'm like, this dude could have 15 tackles probably in the first half and probably have another sack or two and another turnover. That's how well he's playing. And, man, he's turned it up the last couple games, right, guys?
Yeah, I think there's many guys. The one thing I've seen from this team is there's no quit here. Even when they're getting blown out by LSU, they come right back. In the Troy game, these kids are playing really hard, and you see it across the board. They're giving it all. Daly got right up from that hit. He came right off to the sideline. I'm sure it must have hurt, but he was ready to go when it was called on again. We're seeing it with the kicking team. We're seeing with the Quinn that Moretsky made another key field goal. You're seeing it on the defense. Leo had a great game, but other players really, I was impressed with this team. They want to win, they really do, and the defense, like you just said, they were run all over them, but at the right time they made the plays they had to make, and won the game.
And let's be fair, this defense has played well enough in the game against Louisiana Monroe. They played well enough in the UMass game to win. They played well in the Troy game. Didn't 19 points is still a pretty good defensive performance. When your offense is doing nothing and you're on the field all the time,
Mm-hmm.
So they've had the really downfall was that LSU game. When you're going up against LSU, that's totally different. That's another. But they've hung in there for the most part. Yeah, they give up their share of yardage, they give up their share of big plays sometimes, but then they come up with the big plays, and none bigger than Jabari Moore's knockdown on that 4th down pop pass. And I was in the back of the end zone. I had a perfect view of it. I posted the video all over the place. I even took a screenshot from the video that I used for this podcast header. So opener. So just Jabari Moore, just really good instincts on that play. I necessarily didn't think that UMass was going to do that pop pass watching from about 10 yards away. But, he was ready for it, and he credited Nate Woody and the coaches for, running that play through, I guess, during the week. And, they don't have that play. Army probably doesn't win the game. So
it's true. Very true.
Let's go to Ven Davis. Ven, you should just join us. We should just bring you on, and you should just give your opinions on Army football. We gotta get you on one time, Ben. The defense brought it again. Some things to do better as a whole. A lot of arm tackles which weren't successful. Huge play by Jabari. Awesome. Steve Miller. We know the defense needs a rest. The offense can't go 3 and out all game. Yeah, it's tough. Those guys. Jimmy Charlo played well again. Q Hammonds had a pretty good game too.
Good game. Yeah, good game.
Yeah, Q Hammonds. I don't know, Brendan. You have an opinion of this, and maybe Seth does too. He's maybe one of the fastest defensive players Army's ever had. Q Hammonds. He flies around the ball. When he's determined to, he gets there pretty fast, whether it's in the secondary to recover or whether it's now I think he has sacking back-to-back games as at safety. Don't see that too often for an Army safety getting sacks in back-to-back games, and that's all based on his reads and speed. So Q Hammonds, he's really brought it the last 2 games and been a pretty consistent presence all year long for them.
Yeah. I think we have to talk about Holy Cross was playing for something here. They're trying to get into the FCS tournament, and it's unlikely they're going to get the automatic qualifier for the Patriot League. Seems Lafayette has the edge. I think that
why would we mention that, Seth? Why would we mention?
No, let's just say that they came out to play hard. They played very hard there today.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday, they had something to play for. So I think we saw that their quarterback was impressive, and he really did. He really ran the ball very well, very similar to the Boston College quarterback for a few weeks ago. Same type of a quarterback, and he was very impressive running the ball. And they wanted to win this game, so. You got to look at that way too. It's just not Army not playing well offensively. It's also here's a team that really wanted to make a statement.
I mean that is one thing they mentioned. I was actually surprised when I turned on the game and Sluka was in there because he'd been out for 2-3 weeks, and he was Holy Cross's quarterback last year when they won 12 games or whatever they did last year. I think they made it to like the FCS quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Something like that, before they were finally overwhelmed by one of those, I don't know, Dakota schools probably. But I mean, he's a tremendous player. He's one of the best, certainly running QBs in FCS. And I mean, I was a little surprised that that Holy Cross maybe didn't hold him out for their final conference game next week, but.
I think this was the more important game for them. If they could beat because I don't think they're going to win they have to hope for Lafayette to lose too. I think Lafayette won.
Yeah, they don't control their own destiny at this point.
Right. Yeah, so this was a big game to them, and I think they came out hard. They wanted to win the game.
How many tackles did he break? How many tackles did he break or slide through and stuff like that in that game? That was you lose track of it. I mean, in one play, he might have broke like 5 tackles or something like that. He had some pretty good runs, and when he needed to throw the ball, and kind of when they were down in Army territory, he had a couple touchdown passes, in the second half. So I don't know if he's an NFL prospect. I don't know, but I mean, Army's faced some pretty good quarterbacks this year for sure. For sure. And then, and who knows if they're going to face another one on Saturday against Coastal. I don't know if Grayson McCall is going to be. He's missed the last 3 games, I believe, with a concussion. And Coastal Carolina's second and third string quarterbacks are undefeated right now since they started. Yeah. So I mean, it's.
I mean, I don't think we know for sure, but I think McCall might be done for the season.
Yeah, I mean they have James Madison after Army. I guess their backup quarterback's also banged up, and they're going with this freshman Ethan Vasco, redshirt freshman, and they're putting up points on the board. And so Army's defense, you may think, okay, no Grayson McCall, but I mean they have some they have some good wide receivers. Coastal Carolina's going to be a challenge. I mean, we can get to that in a few minutes about the preview in the Coastal game. Anything else? Did we miss anything else on this Holy Cross win that you guys want to talk about? Any specifics you want to bring up?
No, I think we got covered. Brendan?
Yeah, I mean, just like I agree. I agree that Bryson Daly just needs to be a little more accurate if they really want to make this offense go. I mean, kind of the whole point, as I remember being sold in the offseason, was like, it's essentially the same offense in terms of power running, but then you really need those passes to break the back of the defense. And there were a couple of successful passing plays, I think, yesterday that were really from Thatcher's playbook. One was the long one that unfortunately wasn't a touchdown, and then Army got stuffed at the goal line. But that was a play where they essentially faked the wide receiver screen, and meanwhile one of the guys who you think is blocking is just wide open downfield, and Daly hit him in pretty good stride. And then I think there was another one where it looked like an option play, and then kind of like right at the last second, Daly hit the receiver towards the sideline.
Yeah, Tyrell, I think Tyrell
Yeah,
Robinson.
yeah,
On that last like scoring drive, I think, or maybe on the drive.
yeah. I think it was on the field goal drive, but
that was
yeah.
quick. That was a quick pass. That was you didn't. The defense could not have expected that play. So
and that's something that's supposed to be part of the bread and butter of the offense that we just haven't seen a whole lot of this season. I hope we see a lot more of it versus Coastal.
like I said, feed Tyrell the ball. I mean, if you can get him involved in the passing game and then you get him running on the edge and you pound Udo up the middle and then Bryson picks his moments to run the ball and there's holes there. I mean, we've said this before. There's talent on this offense. It's just got to get. They still haven't got it together, really. To be honest with you, I mean that UTSA game was nice, but 1 out of 10, half here, half there.
They're 7-3.
Who is
UTSA?
Yeah, I mean, probably Troy is 7-3 too. Coastal's 7-3. You know, this is not. I mean, this is not Boston College 7-3 or no.
They lost yesterday. I think they're 6-4.
I think they're 6-4. Yeah.
Yeah.
They lost.
But they'll be going to a bowl game, which I think would surprise a lot of people based on expectations at the beginning of the season.
The reason I bring up UTSA is 7-3. I mean, Army beat them, and they're a good team. They beat them at UTSA. You know, you got to go back to it and say, how did Army beat them? Were they not prepared? Were they or did Army prepare? Well, and it could be a combination of both. Who knows? But
I think that was kind of the turning point a little bit of the season where Army goes up to Syracuse and plays with Syracuse for a half, and then the second half just didn't have it, and kind of lost the momentum there, and then kind of the slide kind of happens a little bit. But we'll see. I mean, this is you got 2 games left. This season's flown by, right? And they pretty much have, other than the Isaiah Austin injury, they've really been able to kind of stay healthy. Yeah, Bryson Daly missed the game, right? And he had to come in relief of another game because he got a little bit banged up. But the defense, for the most part, has kind of stayed together health-wise. I mean, they pretty much go with the same 11 guys for most of the season once Jackson Powell got in there, I think, second game of the season. I mean, they've pretty much been good on defense with the starting 11, and there's a lot of continuity there, right? There's a lot of seniors on that defense. Maybe could be the reasons why they're playing well, and they're sprinkling in guys like Brett Jarina in there, and Caleb Fortner has really come on this year, and the defense will be challenged. Coastal will mix it up. They'll run, they'll throw a little bit. It's kind of like Brendan, I don't know. I watch Coastal games, but I am not good with like analyzing like schemes, so to speak. I thought what Army was getting into this year was a little bit mild after like the Coastal offense. Is that correct? Incorrect?
I don't know if it's necessarily what Coastal's still running, but certainly what they had put on tape the past couple of years.
Jamie Chadwell.
Coach Chadwell. Yeah. I think Monken took a lot of inspiration from what he had been doing in terms of where he wanted to take the offense.
Yeah, and Liberty's 10-0, right? Liberty hasn't lost yet.
They have not lost, correct? Yes.
Yeah, that's Chadwell up there in Virginia. There, here we go. Once or twice a game, the offense looks brilliant. We need more of this on Saturday. Yeah, I mean they do show signs, certainly, and then there's times where it's 3 and outs, and then there's times where you wonder, the field position battles too. I mean, sometimes we're just so Holy Cross had 6 of their 8 possessions in Army's territory, right? I mean, the defense was constantly under fire on Saturday, and they kind of respond with with Leo Lowen all over the place and Jabari Moore there and
Q.
And Bo Nicholas Paul, I thought, has brought a lot to the defense, not just with his turnovers, just with his attitude toward the game. He's made some plays in the run game sometimes, and some tackles that have been pretty pretty spot on. And yeah, so now we go to Coastal. I'm trying to think if there's any news since we had you on last, Brendan, that we haven't really got into much. I mean, the whole
the last time I was on was after Boston College, so there's been quite a bit that's
Wow.
happened since then.
Welcome back. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was at the LSU game in person, which was.
Man, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
You know what? New Orleans is a very fun city, so I got to do that for 2.5 days. So that was fun. Let's see. And yeah, I mean, Army joining the AAC. Kind of wish they had waited till after Air Force to make that announcement.
Right.
But you know, I mean, you can only do what you can do. I'm sure the conference themselves had a part in the timing there as well. You know, I don't know. For me, it's like I hope they can. I think they can be reasonably competitive in the American, but I'm just like, you know, to me, Army's conference is the CIC, and they're still dead last in overall CIC trophy wins, and you know, they're still, I think, like 8 games behind Navy in the overall series. So you know, people like to throw around like hypotheticals, like would you rather have Army, you know, closer to like 6 wins a season but dominating the CIC, or you know, 8 wins a season but not doing as well there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think Monken's, you know, like I want Monken to stay there until he's on top of like all of the Service Academy mountains.
You know what? It's a good point. It's a good point because right in the whole CIC trophy race, right? Army had the advantage by playing the independent schedule, right? And how they could set their schedule up where they can, at times, not necessarily lately, but they would have the bye week before even the Air Force game. They would have the bye week. They haven't been doing it recently because I guess some schedule things that happened, but that was their advantage over, you know, Navy and Air Force, and now that will not be an advantage anymore. So now it's pretty much a level playing field when it comes to that. And you know, you know, you're going to schedule. They want to schedule the 1 Power 5 team plus the FCS team. So you're probably going to play that Power 5 team earlier in the season, I imagine, before conference play starts, right? And then you're going to go right into conference play, and we'll see how that shakes out. You know, they're going to take SMU's schedule next year. No, they're not. You know, I mean, it just doesn't fit. But yet they have already a conference game against Rice scheduled already, and they have Tulsa already on the schedule for future games. You know, so I mean, that's all next year and fun. That's all next year and stuff. But it's good to see. So, real quick, in a nutshell, the LSU game. I mean, for probably you, it was probably a little bit of a bucket list game to see Army play at that venue, right? I mean, to a point, or what did you think about the atmosphere there and stuff?
I mean, you know, I mean, it was kind of, I mean, it was full, and then, you know, a lot of LSU fans left at halftime because I think they felt pretty secure that the Tigers were going to walk away with the win. But I will say, for the Army section, pretty much all the Army fans who bought a ticket stayed for the entire game, and we applauded the team as they went back through the tunnel, because you know, because we knew, like, they had just gone through hell, and you know, even if a lot of things had broken their way, they probably weren't ever gonna take that game. But I don't know. I was I was a little more frustrated that they had such trouble with UMass the next week. I would have thought, you know, after playing LSU, you know, you play a team like UMass and you think, wow, these guys seem a little bit slower this week. But I guess that didn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just can't make things up, you know. Sometimes things are just not meant to be, and that's kind of a little bit of the season so far this year. But, you know, 2 games left. See if they can get this one against Coastal. Maybe it'll be a similar game to get Holy Cross, where, you know, the Army plays tough. It goes down to the final minutes. We can hope. Kent checking in. Do you feel Coach Monken's post-game conference reactions have changed in the past years? He seemed more on the edge when Army did not play well. I expect him to be more upset Saturday, but he wasn't. He wasn't happy, Seth.
No, not at all. Not happy at all. I mean, he made it clear. He's been saying the same thing all year that the offense is making mistakes. So he said it again. Somebody asked him, what can you do better on offense? And it was a young guy who asked him the question. It was a fun question at the end. A young man about 10, 12 years old. And he goes, it's going to take, I need a day to tell you that, how to fix things. And, do you have a lot of time? And there's a lot going on. He's very candid with us about it. So he's definitely more quiet than he was in previous years in his reactions to us. But he makes it clear that he's not happy and with certain aspects of the game. And
it's
then
like Groundhog Day. It's like Groundhog Day sometimes with this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same stuff. They can't score on the goal line. Not necessarily. Now it's the penalties over the turnovers. Part of the year it was the turnovers causing the offense to sputter. Now it's the penalties. And now it's like these holding penalties, where if you were in the triple option offense and you were in a close game and you were passing 1 to 2 times a game, you would not be getting these penalties, So I think that's part of it, because the old adage, when you throw the ball, only one good thing can happen and a bunch of bad things can happen, So.
I mean, I know he's definitely frustrated with the holding penalties. I won't say which player, but I read Coach's lips at one point watching the game at home, and he clearly said effing this player again after a holding penalty.
Oh boy, here we go. Let's answer this question, guys. This is the weekly. So James Sartell wants to know what's up with the use of Buchanan. He seemed to be used primarily for blocking as opposed to the bowling ball he can be.
It's what we talk about. We don't understand it. I don't understand it. Here's a guy who had a great career here. How many games in a row did he go where he, it was a gain. They made a big deal out of it. He had no losses. Every time he carried the ball was for a gain.
There's a place for Jacoby Buchanan, right? And that place is on the goal line, but then they just use him as a blocker. So, I mean, and there's a place, he's short yardage guy, right? Short yardage guy. You need 2 to 3 yards. He should be a guy that can pick it up for you. I mean, there's just not enough, apparently, footballs to go around in this backfield, to be honest with you. Like, finally, Markel Johnson touched the ball in the fourth quarter on Saturday. I'm like, he had a great game against UTSA, and he's been probably played a handful of snaps since. I mean, Markel Johnson has talent. Markel Johnson helped you win the Navy game last year in overtime. I mean, I thought he was perfectly fit for this offense. Apparently, I know nothing about football. It's just like we haven't seen Hayden Reed much.
Right.
I mean, Miles Stewart got hurt. Miles Stewart's not in the rotation anymore, apparently. I don't know. I mean, he may be hurt still. Who knows? I am not sure about that. I'm sorry, Miles. I'm not sure about that. But there's just 1 or 2 spots for like 7, 8, 9 running backs, right? I mean, who knows how deep they.
But that can work. That can work. If you're playing them, if you have that many players who can do it, take advantage of it. It doesn't seem to me that they're taking advantage. You go back to the Air Force game. Daly did it all. I mean, they didn't use it, and it worked. It worked, and that's great. That's something we want to talk about. That's something to be proud of. But then you also sit there and say you have all these other players that we just mentioned. Noah Short too. I mean, this guy's had some really good games, and they go to him a little bit, but not a lot. I don't quite understand it, and it's not for me to know anyhow. I mean, I'm sure they know a lot more about football than I do, but I still have to sit there and say why. Why aren't these guys in? Why aren't they being utilized as they have in the past or they've done this year? I don't know the answer to that. It's again, scratching my head.
I
doesn't
could
make
be wrong. It seems to me that Drew Thatcher is a guy who will go with the high hand, so to speak. So Kanye Udo is running the ball pretty successfully. He had 200-yard games in a row. He had I think a 76-yard game against UMass. I mean, he moves. He first contact usually he gets past and moves the ball forward a little bit. I don't know.
How many
That's
touches
my
did he have yesterday, Sal? Do we know?
huh.
How many touches did Kanye have yesterday?
I'll have to look. I mean, not
wasn't-
not a bunch, not a
Yeah.
bunch, not double digits. I wouldn't think so.
And here's a guy who was hot in 2 games. Wasn't utilized as much in the Air Force game, but of
Yeah,
course,
it's game planning.
Yeah.
I guess it's game planning. I don't know.
He had 9 touches yesterday. He just wasn't as successful.
Yeah. I mean, James Sartell saying it's not like they can't pull off the brotherly shove or the tush push. I'm going to call it the tush push. James, you didn't call it the tush push, and let them rip. But I mean, it's just not in the playbook apparently. James wants to add Jarrell Dixon to that list. We haven't really seen Jarrell Dixon at all this year, other than special teams. Another guy that probably has a little bit of backfield talent. We have great players. Some of them aren't being used as much for whatever reason, says Ben Davis. Steve Miller. We're getting a lot of comments, guys. We really appreciate all the input tonight. We need 2 backs in the backfield. You just have more capabilities. What do I know? Yeah, I mean, they do use – I was trying to chart that, how many times they use a single back in the shotgun and how many times they use 2 backs. I think it's more like 60-40, maybe 70-30. It all depends. If they're throwing the ball, they might use 2 in the backfield. If they're running the ball, it depends. They try to mix it up. They try to keep the defenses off balance. It's not working. They're not scoring points on the offensive side of the ball, or many points. So, I mean, we talk about this offense all night long. We could. I mean, there's talent there. Hopefully hopefully it clicks. We're waiting for it to click still in the week after 10 games. It's as simple as that. That's all I can say really about it, to be honest with you anymore.
Well, I mean, it clicked pretty well versus UTSA, and for whatever reason, they haven't really been able to return back to that form. I mean, with the Air Force game, they got off to a quick start and they had a 20-point lead, and so I think it's fair for kind of the role of the offense to change at that point. If you have a 20-point lead and your defense is playing well, I mean, I'm sure if Air Force had closed the lead at all, they would have opened the playbook back open a little bit. But if you're up by 20 points and your defense is playing like a house on fire, I'm okay with the offense just going there and not fumbling the game away. But I mean, like I keep saying, like I'm really hoping to see more of a wide open affair this coming Saturday.
Hopefully some fun, some fun football.
Yeah.
Some stuff to where you're gonna, because honestly, I forget who, maybe it was a comment on Twitter, but somebody, it was a comment on Twitter. A guy who comments a lot on our stories said that he thought when Jabari Moore made that play in the end zone, that was the loudest he's heard Mikey Stadium in a while. And with all due respect, that was a great play by Jabari Moore. Great. But you would hope that you would hear Mikey Stadium loud when the offense does something really well, really consistently good, And there's just not been that consistency. James Sartell wants to give Bo Lombardi a shout out. He played well, showed some grit. I think Brady Small got a little dinged up at the end of the game against Holy Cross. So Bo Lombardi, a senior, was ready to go in there. I think I saw Bo Lombardi line up at like guard during warmups. He played tackle last year. He's been a very versatile guy for Army if they need some depth there. I don't know. We really appreciate you guys tonight with all the comments. Man, we probably hit like 20, 25 comments today. Really appreciate you hopping on. We'll stay on for a couple more minutes. If you guys have anything else you want to, any opinions or questions to get out there, that'd be great. Shoot, Brendan, real quick. Wanted to talk to you. Man, I have to thank you. I owe you a big thank you for mentioning me in the uniform debate for the Army Navy game. I mean, so many mentions through there, so many different people chiming in. I stay out of it because that is not my it's not my area, of
I mean,
expertise.
it's pure fun speculation at this point because we know they're not even gonna announce it for another few weeks. But I was just feeling so good after the Air Force game. I was like, I was already fast forwarding to the Navy game. I was like, ooh, what are they gonna do? So I'm predicting Teddy Roosevelt Rough Riders, although I admit it's a bit of an outside pick. But if you look at the past like 7 years, the history department has not repeated themselves in terms of the campaigns they've been picking from. It's been incredibly diverse.
Yeah,
It's a lot of
and
fun. It's very cool. It's
we
very
don't have I don't have any insight on what they're gonna that what's gonna
No, I
be.
mean they keep it as wrapped up as UFO evidence.
Is Army the white uniform or the dark uniform this year?
I think it's an odd year, so they're the lighter team this year.
Right. Okay.
It'd be interesting to see what they I don't know. I always like the 10th Mountain Division uniforms because I guess that Army Navy game was snowing and it was fitting. When people ask me, what's your favorite Army Navy uniform in the last, 5 to 7, 10 years, I would say that's
My
my favorite one.
Me too.
Yeah, I have a soft spot for that one. If I'm never that cold again in my life, I'll be very happy.
Yeah, there was a question from somebody tonight about, are we going to the Army Navy game? I know Seth and I will be there. I mean, the CIC trophy's on the line, gotta be there, right? So, Brendan, you gonna make it or?
I put in for a sweepstakes, but I'm not planning on going unless somebody else is paying for it.
Gotcha. Let's see a couple more. Kent M saying that was a great one, an exciting game, no doubt. So he finished there. That's not 2018, 2017. That
2017.
2017.
2017. Yeah,
Yeah, because
2017.
that was when they had gotten the CIC back for the first time since
Yeah.
'96.
Let's see. Art checking in. Got on late. How do you see Army matching with Navy? Who do you think will be favored in the game? It's a good question.
Good question.
Ooh, I think
Navy will be favored, I think.
was Navy favored last year? I can't remember.
I have to go back, but
I think Army was favored last year
I
by
think-
a couple.
I think Army was favored last year, but I felt like going into the game, Navy should have been favored. I think Army will probably be a slight favorite this year.
because
I'm
they
sure,
beat Air Force.
Yeah. Well, Air Force beat Navy by 9, and Army beat Air Force by 20. So that
Yeah.
that old the logic of college football,
I agree. I agree.
transitive property.
I see Army being a 2 to 4 point favorite going into the game. They both have one more game to play. Navy has 1 or 2 more games to play. Navy is what, 4 and 5, so 9. So they have 2 more games.
Yeah, I think they still have 2 more conference games.
So they have. So
that UAB game by them was pretty impressive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were dogs. They were home dogs, and they pulled it out impressively. So, how do they match up? It's going to be interesting. They do play similar offenses. I think the Army defense is better than the Navy defense. I give the Navy offense a little bit of an edge over the Army offense at this point. They're scoring points.
I don't know. I mean, I will say this: the Navy has 2 fullbacks that are pretty good, right? That are pretty experienced, and if they can get those fullbacks going, that could be tough on Army's defense. Mike Falowski checking in. Navy's defense seems to be improving each week. Another low-scoring Army Navy game this year. Yeah, probably. I mean,
the Service Academy under has been one of the most consistent bets in college football the past 15 years or whatever. Although it did go over because of the overtime Navy game last year, but I don't know. I'm like I'm hoping Army has a similar effort against Navy compared to Air Force this year. I would really, because Coach Ken's not there anymore, so Monken doesn't have to worry about hurting his friends' feelings. So they can pull out all the stops. They can run up the score if they get there. I mean, I've never seen Army run up the score on Navy in my lifetime, so I would love to see that.
Yeah. Army's old friend Xavier Arline is still playing quarterback for Navy, so we'll see how that works out. Yeah, Navy still has bowl aspirations. They have 2 games left before the Army game, and they have East Carolina and SMU. So
SMU is a tough team. East Carolina, they should beat. They'll probably be favored.
yeah, I mean SMU is tough. They have them at SMU, but hey, if you're playing for bowl eligibility, who knows? Who knows? I mean, they played better than I thought they would play this year, to be honest with you, and I think it will be pretty competitive. Yeah, they played a little bit of the quarterback shuffle a little bit at Navy, but their line is pretty good. Their offensive line's been pretty consistent, and their defense has been solid at times. And when it's an academy game, like we said, these games are going to be low scoring. And Steve Miller, Navy's offense is moving the ball when I've watched them. Yeah, lately, yeah. They also beat Charlotte 14-0. So I mean,
they lost to Temple. They lost to Temple last week in the game.
They got beat bad by Temple.
They did.
I mean, history's certainly on Army's side, just because it's very rare that there's a tie in the CIC series. And also Navy's only won 4 CIC games since 2016. Like they've been that much out of it. So
yeah.
I don't know. I would just say, like, if Army gets a big win against Navy, that covers up a lot of bruises from the past couple of seasons.
Yeah. So this year might be like, you look at Navy with the 2 games left, right? So they're not getting that extra week off that Army is getting this year, right?
They never do. They never do. They always go 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, when Army goes to the conference play,
it'll be different.
That might be the same. So, hey guys, we're gonna thanks so much tonight for joining us, everybody, with their comments and questions. We recapped the 17-14 Army win over Holy Cross. We talked a little bit about Brendan's trip to LSU. We brought back our friend Kel Walker. Brendan mentioned today briefly. We really appreciate shout out to Kel, and thanks a lot. Check out our website. I'm going to be writing a couple more things in the next couple days. Quick thoughts. Hopefully something on the special teams big punt block there, and Seth will have the Tuesday press conference coverage of Jeff Monken ahead of the Coastal Carolina game, a game that I've been looking forward to for a long time. Being my stepson graduated from Coastal, I don't make any bones about it. I'm a Coastal Carolina football fan too. So this is like my wife and daughter are Coastal, me kind of Switzerland, and we'll see what happens on Saturday at Michie Stadium. But we really appreciate you guys jumping on. We'll just get these comments in real quick. Thanks, Steve Miller. Thank you, Kent. Thank you for coming on and joining us. Ven, as always. Art, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again, hopefully next weekend with some good news on an Army win over Coastal Carolina and the Chanticleers. Have a good night, guys. Thanks, Seth. Thanks, Brendan.
Good night, guys.